This is what we're making. It's a tribal shaped shield, pendant, no soldering, and I got the original idea from Tom and Kay Denham at Lapidary Journal. Lapidary Journal has heaps of good ideas. Anyway, this is it for today. Nice and simple. We're going to make a tribal look pendant. The piece of metal that we're using is 30 by 60 by 0.6 thick. This is gilding metal just for the demo. I would normally make this in silver. We're going to make an incorporated bail, so there'll be no soldering. So the first thing we're going to do is mark a line down the middle. Well, the first thing we're going to do is anneal it, and then mark a line down the middle and fold it. Measure the width, draw a line halfway using your verniers, and we're going to just hammer this into our block, our wooden block. So I've just cut a groove in this with my skill saw. I'm using the tapered hammer. Now once we get it started like this, we'll just go to the anvil, crimp that, flatten this. I'm using my jeweler's hammer for this, and I'll just flatten the edge, and then what I'm going to do is use the cross peen part, and I'm going to just put a texture right on the groove. So you can see that I just hammered a little texture right on the rib. Now we're going to anneal this again and open it up. So it's annealed now, and I'm going to take a straight burnisher and just work it into the gap to just start to open it, and then we'll hammer this over our ring mandrel. Use the rawhide hammer. And then we're going to flatten it the rest of the way on the anvil, and we use the rawhide so that we'll end up with this pattern in the middle without any other marks on it. So with our line marking the middle, I'm going to take a 30 by 40 oval shape, place it around it, and use a texture, any permanent marker. Mark your oval, and we're going to use this bit for our bail. So we can just draw a line up either side. I would use the verniers to get a proper distance, and we're just going to run that down so that we have a couple of millimeters past the line. Now we can cut this out. I want to make my mark for the inside to cut out, and I want it to be the same on either side, so I'll just use my dividers and put a little mark on either side, and it will be in exactly the same spot. And now I'm going to take my pattern and just shift it over so that I can put a little mark this way, and that's what I want to cut out of the shield. And we just look at the mark above and make sure that the line is the same. Now carefully saw out your shape. I'm using a 4/0 blade for this. Take your time. So this is roughly what your piece should look like at the moment. Looks a bit like a violin. We're going to use our half-round ring file for doing this inside curve. Scrub the file as you push. I normally brace it against the side of my bench peg. And we just want to get the saw marks out. And then we're going to use our flat number 2 cut hand file for doing the outside curves. Once again, I brace it against the bench peg. And then your sanding stick with 400 grade paper, flat for the outside of the curve, round for the curve. And once we get all this tidied up, then we'll stamp our design in. The filing is all done. I'm using 400 grade paper on a split mandrel, and I'm just going to go around the edge and make sure that there are no rough spots. You can see I'm bracing my fingers together just so that I have better control. Now we're ready to put our design in. Put your piece on your bench block or anvil, make sure it's annealed. This one I'm only using 3 stamps, an angle, also called a chevron, round and straight. Now I made this from an old screwdriver and I made this from an old file. You can draw your pattern on the metal with a texter, or you can just randomly stamp. Use a chasing hammer or a ball peen hammer. When you put your stamp where you want it, make sure it's straight up and down and hit it once. So do this on your whole piece, being very precise, because if you have to hit this a second time, it'll leave a shadow image. It's not quite as nice. That's my chevron. But this is just a nail punch, and they're quite cheap at the hardware store. Makes a nice little circle, and I'm just going to go at the end of each chevron and put a circle mark. That's my pattern. I think that's enough marks. I haven't used the straight, I've just used the chevron and the circle. What we're going to do now is roll this into the bail, and you can use either flat round pliers, or if you have bail bending pliers, this is quite nice. Get the size you want, grab the very end, and just roll it. And that will be your bail. Make sure it touches, and then we'll polish it. That'll be it.